Welcome to episode 58 of the Fly Route Podcast. I am your host, Anthony, aka Tony Playboy, aka Shaq's free throw form, aka the Bears running game, and aka Soldier Fields. And I am joined here by a fantastic guest. He played college football at Navy, was drafted by the Green Bay Packers, played 11 years in the NFL, was a Pro Bowler, the founder of Process to Perform, and an ambassador for the Hall of Fame of Behavioral Health, Mike Wahle. You got any AKAs for yourself today?
God, I think the only thing I can think of, man, is Bald Marauder. People call me Bald Marauder from time to time. That's the email hit.
I like that, Bald Marauder.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing I could come up with. The first day I walked into a Mac store and they're like, "Hey, man, what's your email?" I was like, "I don't know, Bald Marauder." That was it.
I gotta ask, what year was that? The first time you walked into a Mac store?
Oh man, let's see. So that had to be like mid 2000s, right?
All right, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
You got to remember when I forgot my first computer when I was back in college. Like, that's how old I am. So it's like, you remember, and we were at the Naval Academy, right? So you're trying to download like naked pictures of Pamela Anderson, and it's literally like, I mean, listen, I'll just tell you how it was, right? It's line by line, and we were like, and you just wait. Like that, like that's really how it was. That's how crazy. You're probably too young for that. That's really how it was back in the day.
I am.
Yeah,
we at least had dial-up.
Yep.
All right, fantastic. We have an exciting show for you today. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty, give you the tee off, some hot picks for week 8 of the NFL. And of course, since I have a Pro Bowl offensive lineman here, we are going to break down some film and get his insight on some of the things circling around the league. And with no further ado, let's get right into the show.
The Fly Route Pod, the Fly Route Pod, the Fly Route Pod, the Fly Route Pod.
Welcome to the tee off.
Ooh, spill that tea, sis.
This is how I like to start the show off. I like to spill some tea on our favorite athletes and some of the crazy situations they have gotten into, since we have a pro NFL player here today. I mean, who better than to spill the tea than him himself, who was in the locker rooms and everything. So, do you want to start with any crazy stories that you want to share about your time? You played for the Packers, you played for Seattle, you played for Carolina. So, you've been in a lot of different locker rooms.
Yeah, the locker. I tell you, the personalities are different. You got to remember, everybody's coming from a different set of truths in the locker room, right? All different. We talk about different cultures, different styles, and everything. But you're also coming from a different set of truths. And so, like, I remember very, particular. There was a fellow in my locker room my first year, and I came in at 21-year-old, wet behind the ears, have no idea what's going on, really naive, Naval Academy kid. And I'm walking into this like Reggie White-led defense, Brett Favre-led offense in Green Bay. I'm really lucky to be in this situation. But, there's dudes around that are just, you're in Green Bay, small town, and there's only like the ratio of, Green Bay Packers single men or Green Bay Packers men are on the prowl to like women that they want to be attracted to or that they're attracted to. I'm like, is actually kind of a skewed ratio, right? So I remember this one guy, man. This guy would show up and he looked like he had a Batman utility belt on at the locker room because he had so many cell phones for different women. Like in the locker room, it was nuts. I'd be like, "Hey, who's that one for?" He's like, "Oh, it was Cindy." Like, "Who's that one for?" "Oh, Jenna," or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of stuff. That was eye-opening to me because, like I was just talking about, we were on that line-by-line computer. So the idea of having even 2 phones, much less 4 or 6, different.
Okay. Yeah, that was like 1998, so they were all like brick phones a little bit, right?
Oh, dude, you're still almost on the one that's in the middle of the console on in the truck.
All right, fantastic. I know there's a big story that people talk about, the mix-up with the Naval Academy. Mm-hmm. I did my research about this, and this story is kind of crazy because they see that like you were going into your senior year, you were supposed to be a captain of the team, and then they say that you fail a PEDS test. And honestly, I did my research about this because this is insane, because they said you failed a test and then you subsequently passed all the more rigorous tests, and somehow they still kicked you off the team. What happened?
Well, they didn't kick me off the team. I mean, the NCAA's, we talk about them every 2-3 months about just what kind of organization they are. But I went through that situation. And of course, I'm at the academy, so you got to do so many more subsequent testing, and a lot of things go on. And like, obviously, like you never really want to put in that situation. It's embarrassing to your family, and something I'm not like, thrilled to revisit all the time. But it's crazy because we did go through all these top tests. They take you to the spectrometer Olympic labs at UCLA, and everything kind of comes back clean. So I'm kind of like, oh, let's take this to the NCAA. Can we just get this lifted and just move on with our lives, kind of thing. And like I was telling you earlier, you got to take tests every week for the Navy. Anyways, although those are not, and I found out later subsequently that those are not the same tests. But look, bottom line, terrible situation. I think I'm through it because those tests, everything came back negative, and it's just one of those things. And there's a lot of kind of false positives in that world. So we thought we were okay. And then they came back on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, and they're like, yeah, man, you're done. You're done for the year. Now you have a chance to play next year or whatever. But then I got to start like figuring out what's that going to look like, because now you're still at the Navy. There's still those consequences. And certainly if I ever want to play ball again, here's what's nuts. So I got done. My head coach, Charlie Webby, was such a great guy, and, just knew that like where I was coming from. And I just really wanted to play ball. He actually knew a guy at the Edmonton Eskimos in the Canadian Football League. And they called me up. They'd seen my tape. And I didn't know at this time, but my junior year, NFL guys have been coming to see me. Like, I didn't know they were coming to see me. I thought they were coming to see somebody else. But in fact, it turns out they were coming to see me. But the Edmonton Eskimos offered me a 2-year contract, 42 Canadian, plus a guaranteed bar job in the offseason. And I was like, man, it's time to go to Canada. I'm going to be a Canadian football player. I was thrilled, man. So then it's just the most random stuff in the world. I got a couple agents calling me and blah, blah, blah. You got to do this, go do this. And then this guy calls me from Cleveland, Ohio. His name's Neil Cornrich, and he's the guy that he was a big client or a big agent at the time. I didn't know that, but you find out later. And he's like, I don't want you to do anything. I'm going to come down to Annapolis, get off a plane, and buy you an ice cream cone. We're going to talk. So comes down, buys me an ice cream cone. He's like, look, man, you're going to go high you're going to play in the NFL. You're not going to the Canadian Football League. So I was like, yeah. If you say this, I'd call my parents like, hey man, this guy thinks I could play in the NFL. So I mean, it was kind of a crazy thing because it happened so fast. And obviously, like I said before, like you never want to put yourself in a position with anything. After that went through, after I went through that, you really get super, super vigilant about anything that you're buying from GNC, anything that's going in your body, like especially you have that scrutiny that's coming trailing with you. You don't want to embarrass. That's an embarrassment to your family and your friends and everybody that's worked with you. You really find out how your friends are in that situation. But man, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad it worked out, right?
I mean, hey, you end up going to the NFL, being drafted by the Green Bay Packers. And I feel like every single list of best players in the supplemental draft of all time, you were on like top 5, top 10, every single one that I found.
Yeah, so man, I better be. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Who was it? Chris Carter, Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is my draft. Hey, Jamal Williams is a bad man now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he was a bad man.
Yes, he is. So that's an exciting story. That's kind of crazy. You got any other things that you think pop out like, oh, this was an interesting one that people don't think about?
God, well, I mean, there's so many times in especially like your early years in Green Bay. I mean, I remember things like I walked into the Pontiac Silverdome for the first time, and I remember we were about to play Barry Sanders. And there's two things that really stuck out from me. Like the first one was when you went in the Pontiac Silverdome, it was literally a slab of concrete, 120 by like 70 yards, and they were just literally rolling out. There's no foam, no like rubber mat or nothing. It's just like rolling out carpet. They're like, oh, that's what we play on. Like that's what AstroTurf looks like. Like people now cannot even believe that to be true, right? And then I just remember like guys like Barry Sanders. You got to remember when I was in college and in high school, like we didn't have the access, so you just got a chance to I got the chance to see Barry Sanders maybe once a year. He was on TV definitely for like Thanksgiving, right? So you see every once in a while you see this like guy who's larger than life, even though he's kind of small in stature. He was literally as wide as he was tall. But the way that those individuals, certain individuals in the league, kind of affect everybody else, like how scared our guys were of trying to have to tackle him, was absolutely nuts. We walk around the locker room like the week before the game, like, hey man, you got to take a shot. Don't miss. Don't worry about missing. Now you're gonna miss anyways. Just take a shot. If you don't take your shot, I can't take my shot. And it was just every day walking through the locker room, the training room, just on the tip of everybody's tongue because he used to eat us up. So it was like those kind of moments. It's those kind of moments, and like the first time you go up against Reggie White and he literally clubs you to like the next restaurant down the block. It's like those kind of moments kind of wake you up, especially when you Naval Academy option kid and you're just kind of going like, man, what am I doing here? I had a lot of like wake you up moments, I think, of those early years for sure.
Hey, that was a really interesting thing you said. A guy that you're kind of afraid to hit. Everybody's like, don't miss. Do you think there's anybody in the NFL now that kind of gives that same energy? No.
So there's guys. So there used to be a thing called the Larry Allen flu. You remember Larry Allen? You're in Dallas.
Ooh, I'm in Dallas now, but I was not
Okay,
for a
so
while.
Larry Allen's like this, like he was a left guard for the Dallas Cowboys. He played a couple positions, but he's really left guard. And he was like the baddest dude on the planet. He had a 700-pound bench press. He could run like 4.7. I mean, he was just people were literally like defensive linemen were scared of him. And they literally called it the Larry Allen flu. People would get the Larry Allen flu the week of the game because they didn't want to play him. So I remember, I'll give you a story. So we're about to play the San Francisco 49ers in like maybe my second year, and we're going to the playoffs. Second and third year, I'm about to play Dana Stubblefield. He's like the reigning NFC Defensive Player of the Year, right?
Okay.
So my agent we have the same agent. Agent calls me up and he's like, "Hey, if you really want to know how to do well against Dana Stubblefield, you should go ahead and watch that Dallas tape. He seems to not play well versus Dallas." And I'm watching this Dallas tape, and like, he's literally afraid to get punched by Larry because Larry bench presses 700 pounds. So I called my agent, but I'm like, "Hey man, I love you, and we are good, but don't ever give me recommendations about how to watch film or do anything because I can't literally do what that man does. He's from a different planet, right?" So like Aaron Donald's kind of like that right now. Like you could see a guy, like you could see a guard right now being like, "My knee's a little sore. Like, man, I got to play Aaron Donald this week. I don't know if I'm going to make it." Like he's that kind of bad man.
Okay. All right. That's okay. That's it. Aaron Donald. That's not surprising to hear that's like the closest guy that kind of gives you that vibe. All right. Let's keep it going. And that was your tee off.
Ooh, spill that tea, sis.
All right, let's move on. I like to do a thing called the Fly 5 picks, and I give 5 picks for the week of teams that I think will be pretty good. And so far, we've been doing very, very good this year. And I got a couple of them, but before, I want to talk about some of your former teams that won't make my 5 fly picks, but I want to know what you think. So first off, tomorrow we get the Packers versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals are favored 6.5.
6.5? Oh, I'm
6.5.
Let's go.
Packers. Okay.
Oh, let's go. Yeah, all day.
Wow.
Hold on. Which one am I?
I mean,
there we are.
I don't know if Devontae Adams will play. And
it Lazard's not playing. That Lazard thing kind of hurts, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I like the line is pretty big, but I think it's pretty big because I don't know who they're going to have out there catching balls besides Robert Tonyan, and I don't know who the 4th and 5th guy are, but they're the 1st and 2nd this week.
Well, MVS might play. Ecomania St. Brown might play. He might come back this week. And they can run 2 tight. I mean, here's the deal: when you look at like if you go kind of deep inside the numbers, there's guys that have moved the ball on the Cardinals. They just turn the ball over a lot, right? I mean, they had some amazing week like first week, and they've been playing really, really well. But they do turn. People have been turning the ball over, and that's why there's been these scores. So with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it's like you watched the Texans game last week. And they can blitz that Mills kid from every which way, right? The Buddha can come off the slot. They can do whatever they want, but you're not doing that against like Aaron Rodgers, just because he'll throw the hot route. Like he'll make those things work. So I don't know. I mean, I think this is one of those games where they're kind of playing with house money a little bit, right? Like nobody's expecting anything from them, and in those situations, you usually see. I think that the record's like 6-0 when Devontae doesn't play, despite being the best wide receiver in the game, because it does kind of force everybody else to step up their game. And also, when you're playing against a primo receiver like that, like your focus is always there. Whereas now it's like Aaron's got, 50% of the balls right now are going to one player. So now he's like, I can spread the wealth a little bit, right? So that might make him more dangerous in the short term. Maybe not in the long term, but in the short term. And I don't think, me personally, when I watch the offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals, I think they've been playing well. I think Kyler Murray masked a lot of problems, but you could see when a guy like Rashard Gary's like just coming up right now and starting to learn, like, man, this hand really works at pressing that tackle. He's getting to be pretty good. He's like 4 or 5 plays away from being like game plan special. 4 or 5 plays a game from being like guy you got a game plan against. So he could have one of those kind of days, man. If they can just keep that guy corralled a little bit, we got chances.
All right. The next one I got is the Panthers versus the Falcons. The Falcons are favored by 3.
Yeah, it was Sam Darnold playing. What's it like?
I think he's starting again.
Guy, man. It's almost feel like he was ruined in the Jets, and then like you had this like honeymoon for like 2-3 weeks when he was doing well, and then it just like revert back to the mean or wherever he was. But I think like their defense is awesome. Carolina's defense is nasty, right? That Pitts kid though for Atlanta, he just feels like a difference maker right now. And the problem with Carolina's defense is like they got a lot of small guys that move around really well, but you can't like. If you're going to have to be out there for 75 plus snaps or something like that because your offense can't move, or you got problems, man. I think the Falcons might take that one.
All right, now the official five fly starts here, and these are the picks that I'm really hot on. So I got the Bengals versus the Jets. First off, the Bengals are favored 10.5, and I'm slamming this one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Yeah. The Jets are starting backup quarterback Mike White, who has
dude.
played one NFL game. The Bengals.
I want you to, without looking at your stat sheet, man, name like 3 players on the Jets. You know what I mean? Like it's tough right now. It's tough.
I can't name 3 healthy players for the Jets, but I can name 3
tough.
total players.
No, I mean they're supposed to have that great D line coming in and everything, but the Bengals. And here's the thing: it's funny what happens when you have that one player that comes into your organization that makes everybody believe. And Joe Burrow, he said it last week. He's like, hey, man, you talking about the Ravens crowd noise? Like, dude, I play in the SEC. Are you serious? This isn't going to bother me at all. You know what I mean? And then that dude, like, they just had that thing on Twitter this morning about how Jamar Chase came in when he got drafted. He's like, I'm gonna break every record they have. Period. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. And confidence, like the true definition of confidence, is when a guy knows he's gonna or she's gonna do something. They might not know how they're gonna do it yet, but they know it's gonna get done. Like that dude, he doesn't care where he's playing. He doesn't care he's playing for Cincinnati. Like somebody forgot to tell him they're not supposed to be any good. I like that team a lot.
I do too. They are surprising. They're like they are arguably a top 5 team, if not just top 10 for sure right now. After that game against the Ravens, I was shocked how they kind of handled the Ravens, who had been really good all year long. All right, we're rolling down next, and I'm taking a lot of double-digit spreads, even though that's a little bit dangerous, but some of them are just too juicy. Rams versus the Texans is my second pick. The Rams are favored by 14 points. I'm still taking it. And generally 14? I say, look, generally
they're going to tell you the Texans are probably this week. 14 points is a lot too, man. I mean, 14 points, that's like college.
It is.
I know.
It is tough. A lot, but the Arizona covered 20 points against them last week. 2 weeks ago, the Colts covered 14.5 against them. I want to say
I like Mills, but I like Mills. Like it's one of those things. Like when you're in that situation, especially when you get thrust into it with Tyrod Taylor getting hurt immediately. But I think he's back this week, but he's probably not going to play. But when you get thrust in that situation, like midweek or like mid-game, like your playbook closes, right? And then they're like, I can't open it. Like they just can't get that playbook open, right? So you watch their games, it's like so many wide receiver screens, and they're just trying to take the pressure off because, like you see in Arizona last week, man, he might be looking over here. They got a 2x2. They got 3 guys over there, and they're like, all right, he can take those 2. Our line will slide left. We're good. He drops back and just gets hit in the back of the head because he's not thinking about it. Right. So it's like those kind of awareness things that you've got to learn. And as soon as something like that happens, like that playbook closes back up, man. And they're like, all right, hey, let's just throw that quick screen again. Get you 2. It's tough.
So you think it's partially they don't trust him enough yet?
It's not a trust. It really isn't a trust issue. That's the wrong word. It's just that you have to develop those guys. I mean, you see it all across the league with some of these young players. And the guys that have success early have a staple that they can deal with. I always go back to like Roethlisberger. He's the easiest example in the world, right? Like small school, Miami of Ohio, but he goes to the Steelers. The Steelers have like all pros everywhere over the offensive line. They got Jerome Bettis. Dude, he was only throwing the ball like 17, 18 times a game, and it was all out of like play action and quick passes. Now, if you could actually recreate that, right? It's different, but you don't have fullbacks in the league anymore. Like you don't have that power run game unless you look at like, the Titans. Like most of the way that people run the ball now is different. If you went in 2 tight ends, you could actually block, and you go 2 tight ends and then run all your play action and stuff off that, you might actually have a chance of doing something special as a rookie quarterback. But all this like shotgun spread offense stuff, and there's just like defensive coordinators have too much free time on their hands to think they're not going to come up with a scheme to at least make you confused for that half second.
Okay. I will say, without going into all the stats for this game, the Texans only average 14 points a game, and the Rams average 30. Yeah, it's a little tough. It is a little tough. All right, the next one here, and this one might be me being a little bit of a homer, but I just can't help it. The 49ers play the Bears, and the 49ers are favored by 3.5. So I am taking the Bears as a dog. How do you feel about it?
They're playing at Chicago?
We're playing at Chicago, yes.
I could see the Bears winning that game easily.
Yeah, easily. I felt the same way.
The Niners aren't the same team, man. Hey, when the Niners here's the worst thing the Niners have done. You talk about Trey Lance. The worst thing the Niners did in the last 2 years is they let old boy 99 walk over and play for the Colts on the D line. That is he was all pro last year. That kid is a problem. And they don't have that interior rush anymore. They just don't. It's not the same. And when you don't have that, like your whole defense is relying on a couple things, right? Penetration and pass rush, because you got two linebackers on the second level. Fred Warner, they're great players, but it's like they're not very big, man. So you like everything's got to go together. Where this guy's penetrating, if I'm getting off on the linebacker, that means that like the guard's getting his ass kicked. Like that stuff is. People don't think about how important that is on all three levels of the game.
Look, this is actually everything, because all the numbers basically say everything that you have just said in a way more succinct way. Like the 49ers are in the bottom half of a quarter if every defensive rushing statistic, all of them in the bottom half of the league or the bottom quarter of the league. And I like this game because Chicago has learned that they are a run first and run as often as possible team right now with Justin Fields. Like we are a top 3 rushing percentage team, top 6 yards per game. Like I like this a lot. A good matchup for us where we could just kind of play to our strengths. I will tell everybody that hold off on betting this game at 3.5 because there's a chance that Khalil Mack will not play, which will make the line even bigger and better for Chicago. So that's something that I'm really interested in looking at. We'll move
Is Quinn back
down.
in? Is Quinn back this week?
Quinn should be back this week. Khalil Mack, there's a chance he might go on IR. That's how bad it is. He's dealing with the ankle and foot thing.
That's too bad. See, so I didn't play with Quinn. I got to work with Quinn. I was down in Miami. He's different now. He's like a special. He's a very, very underrated player. He's like one of those guys. There's a couple guys in the league where you're just like it's like oh gosh, I think he just went to the Ravens. He's the Chargers guy, Melvin Gordon. You know what I'm talking about? Not Melvin Gordon. Oh gosh, Melvin Ingram.
Okay.
Yeah, those guys, they might not have the numbers, but people do not want to see them on Sundays. Like Melvin Ingram is one of those guys. He's never led the league in sacks. People do not want to see him. He has all kinds of problems.
New Chargers coach, his name is escaping me right now. Brandon Staley. He had a great quote a couple weeks back about how stats are an inefficient stat to kind of define whether or not a guy is good. Instead, you should go for like hurries and like QB hits, etc., because those are way more predictable about future performance. And like I thought that was always really big and like kind of proves why people like Robbie Quinn maybe don't get the credit that they deserve. We are moving down to another game, and I think this game is going to be exciting. Bucks versus the Saints. The Bucks are favored 5.5.
I'll take Bucks.
Oh, me too. The Saints were barely able to hold on with the Seahawks this past week.
Yeah, the Bucks offense is they just got too many weapons. Gronkowski came back today, I think. They got too many weapons.
So did Levante
I like the Saints
David.
defense too, but I'm one of those guys who's kind of in Jameis Winston's corner, like I'm rooting for him. You know, I like the redemption story idea. I like it, but Tom Brady could win the MVP this year, man. Like he's doing that well.
Yeah, he is. I mean, like this might be like his most productive season ever. He's on pace for it. And like not even close. He's on pace for smoking the Randy Moss year right now. So like it's interesting. So yeah, Gronk, Sherman, and Levante David all came back into practice this week. So yeah, they're gonna be pretty big. And honestly, this is actually the smallest spread the Bucks have had all year outside of their game against the Rams. They've been favored by a larger margin in every
division opponents play each other different, right? Because of the familiarity. But you got to look like Bucks secondary is decimated. You know they got Sherman coming back, but it's like the Seattle game. You know, I think they were saying it on TV the whole night. Like, who's Jameis Winston going to throw it to if Kamara's not in? Like, where's the ball going? It's just you don't have that rapport with those guys. I don't know what the deal is. Like, I know Mike Thomas isn't back yet, but maybe he comes back this week. But gosh, it just feels like they can't take the top off they can't take the top off the coverage. They just have problems.
Yeah, they seem like 50 to 60% of their offense is just all Alvin Kamara.
And I think the left guard just got hurt, which I mean he's an above average player, you know. So that's problems too, you know. When you think about you got Sue and you got Vita Vea inside.
All right, this last one is a Sunday night game. The Cowboys are playing the Vikings, and the Cowboys are only favored by 2 points.
Cowboys all day.
Yeah. I was shocked this spread was this small. I know the Vikings are at home and everything, but the Dallas is 6-0 against the spread this year.
Dallas can score points in a hurry, and like they got guys that like Diggs is just showing out, right? That's gonna be a fun matchup, by the way.
Yeah.
But you kind of look at it, and the Vikings always are better. Like I don't ever give the Vikings credit because of the Vikings, but like they're actually better than I think I give them credit for. But having said that, man, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine Dallas is kind of feel like they're on a roll. They're kind of figuring themselves out on defense a little bit more, and they have so much confidence on offense right now. I think most people are healthy. Generally, I think they might even get back Collins. I know they're going to lift that suspension this week, so he might play. And now that offensive line's even better. It's like they're rolling right now.
Yeah, honestly, this is going to be an interesting one for me because Dallas has the best offense in the league, and defense has been Minnesota's Achilles heel all year, which is crazy because Mike Zimmer is supposed to kind of be the defensive guy, but their offense is all they have right now. All right, so that concludes the 5-5. So I want to know what y'all think. If you all will follow on, we went 3-2 the last couple weeks, 4-1 the ones before that. So we are pretty hot right now, and it sounds like you're feeling most of the picks I got here so far.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on. I think I'm with you on all of them. Yep.
All right, fantastic. Let's keep it moving.
Big trust. Woo woo.
Next segment we're going to talk about is I kind of want to get some kind of thoughts from you, more like personal questions. So my first one is, what is the best team that you were ever on? 11 years in the league, the best team you were ever on.
So I made the NFC Championship my first year with the Panthers, but that was not my best team. The best team was the team that lost that. I think it was like 2003. It was that we lost that 4th and 26 playing in Philly, and then I think the Panthers beat Philly that year to go to the Super Bowl. That team was, man, we were loaded up. I mean, it's like you look at that team. We on offense, we had 10 starters who were like Pro Bowl players, and the one guy was Mark Tauscher. And he was a Pro Bowl player. He just played right tackle in the day where like right tackles didn't make Pro Bowls. But like every one of our guys we were top. We were really, really good. We thought we were unstoppable. We actually ran for like 250 in that game, man. We still lost.
Oh yeah, is that the line like Clifton, Rivera, Flanagan?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I feel like people are still to this day on Packers Reddit talking about how great that offensive line was.
That line was legit, and we were just lucky. We all came together with like Amon Green. Will Henderson was our fullback. Bubba Franks was so underrated. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl player, but like he was underrated, especially in this time. And then we brought in this kid, Kevin Berry, who he went to University of Arizona. He weighs like, I mean, he was like a 360-pound kid, and he played tight end for us. And it was like the things that he would do, like you didn't want like the defensive end's mom to watch the game. The things he would do to this guy every once in a while, man. He would like literally throw him out the bar, pancake him. I mean, he was nasty on the field. So we just had talent. Donald Driver, Javon Walker, Ferguson, and we were stacked, man. It was a fun time to be an offensive player in the Green Bay Packers.
All right, that was the best team that you were ever on, and I think that there's a lot. So you have the business and podcast process to perform. So you talk a lot about what it means to be successful and how it works. Yeah. What is the process for it? So give us a little bit more information on that.
Sure. Yeah. I work with athletes really I work with pros all the way down to like preteens, and there's a tool set I think that it takes to become like the best version of you. I call it just become an elite. And the 3 themes that we really work on are mindset development, technical mastery, and ownership decisions, which is another way of saying making decisions in the best interest of future you. And for me, when I look at this, really the impetus was I went back in the league after taking 5 years off working in finance. I went back in the league because I just missed sports so much, and I just noticed the guys that were coming in were just lacking some of these things that we were kind of force fed, or we were ingrained in us from a younger age, because of the way that the pay to play sports are now and everything, the big business that sports is. We just missed some of these fundamental tools. And the guys that kind of figure this out faster are the guys that have a lot more sustained success and are trying to like ascend every single year. It's like there's a reason that Tom Brady is 44 and could still be the MVP this year, right? Like he figured it out, right? And every year he's trying to figure it out a little bit more. It's the same thing with all the top players in the league. So I took that. I started looking back down at I had kids that were just getting into their teenage years and started looking at it and going, man, this is some information that if we had it back at this age, we can ingrain those behaviors now and teach them about routine development, teach them about having a kind of an ownership mindset, being able to take ownership of your career. It's so invaluable, not just for sport, but just for the rest of your life, the way you operate, that I thought it was important to try to get it out there.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So what do you think is like the hardest part of the game that people don't understand?
I think that ultimately every athlete is trying to do one thing, and they're trying to enter into every situation with as much confidence as possible. And I don't think athletes really know where to get that confidence from. And for me, confidence comes from there's only one place that nobody can take from you, and that's confidence in your preparation. So I don't care how big, fast, strong you are. I don't care where you were raised. I don't care if you had money, didn't have money. I don't care, the color of your skin is. Like, if you understand the preparation that goes into being the best version of you, you can walk onto the court, you can walk onto the field to play, knowing that you've earned the right to play well that day, man. That is a feeling that I wish everybody, whether you play sports or not, that is a feeling that I wish everybody could experience, because it is like the best feeling in the world.
All right. So I got another one for you, and this one is the game that haunts you the most.
Fourth and
till this day.
26, man. I just talked
Fourth and 26? The one where your legs got kicked out under you?
Oh man, yeah. So the 4th and 26 is preceded by the 4th and 1 that we could have gone for it when Mike Flanagan and I had a second string defensive tackle. I don't even know the guy's name, and we're literally yelling at Brett like, please hike this ball and just follow us, and we'll end this game right now. Which is preceded by the 4th and inches on the goal line. We ran 92 G lead, which we had never run before, and it was basically like a trap play without Kevin Berry in. Corey Simon, I think it was Corey Simon, split our double team, dove, took my legs out. I took out AG, and we're both fumbling around, and the linebacker came around, made a play, and it was like we were about to go up like 14 or 17 points, man. That was the game right there. It's just like, it's crazy what happens, but that was a bad feeling, dude. That was a bad feeling. And I don't, you don't know during the game that, like, I knew I got tripped up, but then afterwards I'd be like, my trip up got him tripped up, and then that's how we got stopped.
The domino effect.
Man.
Effect. All right. So you ended your career in Seattle after like another injury happened to you. How do you think that the league has changed in the way that it handles injuries, etc.?
Well, obviously the rules have been put in place. Whether you want to say it's because of they care about players, or whether they just care about dollar signs and they're trying to make trying to get like younger players to keep playing and whatnot. But I think what's changed the most is player awareness and understanding that a lot of players look at themselves as young entrepreneurs, and they're building a brand, right? And their business is their body and their output. And so back in the day, my peers would continue to play with head injuries, shoulder injuries. We would play until we literally couldn't play anymore, and then we would go stop playing. Whereas I'm not saying this isn't because they're softer, it's because they're just more aware of kind of the business side of it, right? They're more aware of like longevity. I just actually did a podcast on this. Longevity matters more to professional athletes than it ever used to. Like, I knew we had a finite amount of time in the league. We were going to play around, if we were lucky, play around 10 years. So we were going to make it the best damn 10 years we could. If it was the best 8 years versus like an average 10 or 11, I'd rather take the best 8. Nowadays, because they're getting paid so much, right? It's just a different equation now. They want to play for 15. They want to play as long as they can. They don't care if they're playing at 80, 95, or 90% of their capacity. Like, they don't want to play at 100. They just want to get there. So the arguments change, and because of that, I think like the awareness is a lot different. Obviously, the communication you have with technology and whatnot is different too.
Okay, facts. So the game has changed a lot. I feel like we've talked about this. You were a big run blocking guy, like back to your draft profile at Navy. Like, that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to run the ball down people's throats. How do you feel about the evolution of the game and people moving more away from the run and everything's real pass happy, spread offense?
Yeah, so Brandon Staley, the coach for the Chargers, he actually had a real good statement a couple of weeks ago, and obviously the real change has come from what? Has come from fantasy football. It's come from sports betting. That's where the change in the rules has really come from, because that's another way for them to earn money. So the fantasy football came up, and then all of a sudden you see all these pass happy statistics, and they might call it in the case of, they might call it in the name of player safety, but really it's just bringing another demographic to the table, man. That's really what it is. And so for me, like Coach Staley said, you need to be able to continue to run the ball. You have to have a plan, because it takes the aggression out of the defensive line and puts it into the offensive line. Otherwise, the offensive line, I'm just telling you from my personal experience, I would hate, I watched the Houston Texans last year line up and spread 65 plays a game and do 5-step drops. Like I just wouldn't. I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have gotten a fight every second quarter and gotten kicked out of the game because I hated it so much. So yeah, so for me, it's you have to be able to find joy in what you do as a profession, right? And being able to go forward and be that aggressor. I think that's very important to the game. And so when I look at it, like I understand the analytics and I understand everything behind why we go to 3 wide instead of 2 tight ends. But look, the pendulum swings one way and the pendulum's going to swing back. You see more tight ends coming back into the game. You see you see like the Titans, obviously with a special guy having a lot of success. The Niners for years have had a ton of success just finding space. The Rams had a ton of success finding space. So we might call it different things, not downhill run anymore. They might run an outside zone. They might run toss sweeps and jet sweeps. But it's as long as we're as an offense, if we're being honest, we're making the defense play honest, so they can't just tee up on us every time. Like you got to do what works for you.
Okay, I'm with you. So we talked, I like talking a little bit about how it changes for the offensive line. I got some film that we can break down here. I can start it and stop it whenever you want. We are starting with some Packers v. Bears stuff here. This game was not great for my Chicago Bears, but
this is a good game though. This is a good game. It was a good game.
It was a great game. Justin had a chance to come back at the end, which was interesting. But, of course, you make some rookie mistakes. You take the sacks instead of, letting the ball go. And then the drive is dead. And you give the ball back to Aaron Rodgers, and it's over. But I could start it and stop it whenever you want. Go back whenever you want. Let me, the viewers, everybody know what you are seeing.
All right, let it rip. It looks like we got a 2 tight end set, right? So you got 21 personnel. It looks like, go ahead and let it run. 7-man box. I want to just roll back real quick.
Of course.
So they're just running an inside zone, and really what you see is, first of all, Mercedes Lewis, one of the Packers tight ends, is been for the last 10, 15 years, one of the arguably the best, if not the top 2 or 3 blocking tight ends in the NFL. Not only is he a great locker room leader, but he's just a real pro. And so having him on your side is just such an asset. And it's the reason they've been able to do a lot of things. He's kind of like under the radar, really valuable player for them, because Tunyon's I think they rated him like the worst, blocking tight end in the league last week or something like that. He has no business being in there. So, and I know they brought 81 in, they're trying to do some work, and Lazard's actually trying to get in here, right? You can see him right here, trying to get involved, but this is just like an inside belly play. They're going to try to get 2 double teams if they can with the center and the left guard, and then the right guard and the right tackle, and really just try to drive those people back. So you look at that play, and what happens is, especially on the left side, the left guard comes up, which is John Runyon Jr. He's been doing a great job. And I can't remember if Myers played. I think Patrick played this game. So he stands him up. Patrick pushes him over, and then he can kind of climb to that second level just enough to get a hand on that linebacker so we can try to run through that play. And essentially that's what you're trying to do every play. You're trying to create vertical separation on the defensive line. So I always look at it this way. If an offensive lineman can move a defensive lineman off the ball, like vertical separation for a yard, not like swinging him open, but actually moving him a yard off the ball, that's at least 3 yards. That translates to at least 3 yards of untouched grass for a running back. So that's how we kind of think about it. So if you can get 2 double teams, it's a very, very basic play. If you can get 2 double teams and get those guys moving off the ball, get them on their heels, and then just be able to get a hand on that linebacker, you're betting that your running back's going to at least be able to fall forward for 5-6.
Okay. I like that. So then we'll move on to the second play here, and it's goal line play for the Packers here. 3rd and goal. Let me know when you wanted to run it and what you see.
Yeah, so let's just obviously it's empty formation, and they got a 3-by-2 on the right, and you're just looking at there's because you're on the goal line, everybody's crowding the line of scrimmage. I don't think a lot of people are thinking that Rodgers is going to do a quarterback sneak here. Like a lot of players would spread this, or a lot of teams would spread this out and just like QB draw. They're not really in that position because they kind of almost have a bunch formation on the right when you see it. But you see a lot of people on the line of scrimmage. So what does that tell you? They're probably trying to give an indication that we don't know who's coming if we're looking at it from the Green Bay Packers perspective. Down here, you kind of look at the bottom of the screen. They're obviously going to be playing man-to-man. So, there's a lot of tips already. And so it really turns into like up top, how are they going to switch off those players on the defensive standpoint? I think that's Devontae up top. And then I don't know who the second player is, but they've got 3 up top there. How are they going to switch those players off?
Okay.
Jones comes back in.
That was actually really clean.
That's just that tricky shovel to Lazard. Yeah, I mean, this has been actually pretty popular, right? Like Amon Green is funny. We do a podcast. Amon Green was like, everybody thinks this is a new play, man. He was doing this with Big Lawrence. Rest in peace at Nebraska, man. They were doing this like 20 years ago. But this is a great play in the NFL right now. You know, you see the Chiefs doing this all the time, right?
I think once the Chiefs kind of brought it back, everybody else was kind of like, oh, why aren't we doing the same thing? And you see that happen a lot.
It's a great place. We used to run it. We used to call it's called a shovel pass. We call it 17-18 shovel pass. And the reason that it's so effective is because it really puts that defensive end who, in this situation, when your tackle disappears and you see that motion guy coming across right in your face, you hesitate and stop. And if you just stop and square your feet up to that quarterback and try to find the ball, it's already too late. Because the route that Lazard's taking is almost right into the end zone. You see, like I think that's Quinn on the end, right? Or I can't tell who the right defensive end was right there. But as soon as he squares up, like it doesn't matter. It's over. The play's over. Can't do anything about it. Even if they're running a game and they stunt because the tackle went down, he's always gonna stunt wide at the linebacker position. So more often than not, you're gonna overrun that play.
Okay. So we got a little bit of Bears work here. So there's been a lot of talk about the offensive line for the Bears and how it's
rightfully so.
Okay, so how it's atrocious and how the game plans aren't really built for fields to succeed with that type of offensive line. So I love to get Pro Bowl offensive linemen here. Like I love to get your insight on this.
So yeah, I think you saw this too, just like speaking generally, right? I know they switched it over to Bill Lazor play calling. So there was that honeymoon period where you guys won a couple games, and then now it's like revert back to the mean, which is kind of what always happens, right? It's not like Matt Nagy didn't know what he was doing, right? It's unfortunate, right? That whole narrative, the way they've handled it up there has been, I think, fun for media types, but I think it's difficult for the team. Why don't you just take a look? So if you real quick, the Packers, they got 3-by-2 over the top on both sides, really. So this is kind of, as you look at it, they're just playing pass. Obviously, it's an empty backfield. And, the narrative in the league right now for most teams with athletic quarterbacks, with wide receiver threats is, hey, man, we'll let you play from like the 20 to the 30 or the 40 on the opposite side. Right? We're going to give you the field, and we're going to bear down, no pun intended, like in the red zone, right? We just want to clamp down because we think we're going to score 7 a lot more than you are. And so there's a lot of like free field movement and a lot of just like playing like in a lazy cover 2 shell coverage over the top with a lot of these teams. I don't know if that's what they're going to do here. It looks like they might. And we'll give you the 5-yard. Like basically what they're saying is like, I think your offensive line's terrible, and you're going to make a mistake, whether it's a holding call, whether it's a false start. I think your quarterback's young. He's going to make a decision error, right? So they think that you can't drive the field without making mistakes. And it really only takes one mistake to get you in that like 2nd and long, 3rd and long. And then the game's pretty much over if you don't have a qualified quarterback, which right now I'm rooting for Justin Fields because I think the NFL is better when the Bears are good, but we need to get there a couple years from now, maybe.
Yeah, we'll run the play.
So Kenny Clark had a good game this game. I think they just ran like a TE, although I think Rashad Gary got slammed there. Basically Kenny Clark's been having one of those years where he's not going to pull up. I think he had 2 sacks in this game. He's not going to get a lot of sacks. He's not the kind of player, but he's like an all pro level run defender and just, all around defensive lineman, like full. He's like a Cam Hayward to me, like full package. Rashad Gary is becoming a monster. And, you have a double team with your left guard and center. I know you had a chip block when you're tight end to take Gary down, but they were running the game anyway, so it kind of worked out. And you look right here, like, do you have options if you're the quarterback? You've got a guy outside coverage, outside leverage on your tight end out of the backfield, so you might not want to throw that. You look at the 40-yard line with the guy running what looks like a dig route. You can see the shadow of his guy covering, so that's probably a window pass that he could make if he's comfortable making. He might not be comfortable now. Then you look on the other side, which is probably going to be his 3rd read because it's to his left, and he's got that 5-yard out that's covered as well. So he's looking at this like, where do I go with the ball? Right now, I can't see the whole field, but that's how I see it from this perspective. And all of a sudden, Kenny Clark's bull rushing your right tackle, and it's like, oh man, I got to get out of here again. Let's see what happens at the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
So once he turns his hips to the sideline, play's over. See what I mean?
They know he's not going to be able to make a pass.
Well, they know, you should know, he better know. But as soon as he's running to his left and his belt buckle is showing to his sideline, man, you better not throw that ball now, right? That's some Pat Mahomes stuff. You know, like they're not teaching that at quarterback U, right?
All right, we got another one here. This is another Packers play. Oh, I'm pretty sure someone gets massively pancaked in this one. No, not this one. Ooh.
All right. So,
no,
so
we just missed all the tackles.
Well, AJ Dillon's a big man. Like he's a big dude, right? And so, would you want to go back to that play real quick? Yeah. So as you watch this, I think they're going to run the wham, which is when they bring the tight end backside. So we were talking about this. This is what 81's in the game for. So just go ahead and run it. So you'll see on the top of the screen, it's a 2x2, two tight ends, but the one's off to the right. He's hipped off the right tackle, Billy Turner. Okay, there he comes. So yeah, now he goes for that wham block, cuts Quinn, right? So they can basically push everybody to the right to get, again, all we're trying to do is get double teams down the middle. Trying to get double teams up to that linebacker level, and you can just let that other guy play free because they're going to wham block on the backside. Wham block means tight end, for tight ends who can't block, they like 5 years ago, they decided, all right, we're just going to run you backside and have you cut the defensive end to keep him out of the play, keep him honest. And then Lazard's going to come in and try to dig out that safety who's in the box. And now it just kind of turns into.
He doesn't get touched.
Well, it's because so Royce comes down, so it's almost like an open side counter, right? So Royce comes down, the right guard, and runs the trap game, and they actually cut the ball inside the trapper. So all that means really is, we talked about this before on the shovel play, when that tackle goes down and your linebacker overruns, like, the tackle is going to go down. The backer's usual track is probably where the tackle is, right? But now if the tackle disappears and leaves that like 4-yard hole, well, I can kick you out now, right? And so you see Royce, the right guard, came pulled and kicked that play out, and now he's going to cut backside. Backside, again, you always think about, like, in any confrontational sport, bro, if I can get you to turn your hips that way or that way, you've got serious problems trying to tackle me, right? If you're not square to me, if I get you to turn your hips that way or that way, you've got real problems, because I'm going this way very fast and I'm a big dude.
AJ Dillon is a really big dude. All right, we got one more, I think one more or two more plays from the Packers Bears games here. So yeah.
You got that bunch on the left. Let's run it, see what happens. So cool screenplay, right? Cool setup, because they run Lazard on the backside again, and they're kind of running that counter look. So you see what is the hardest thing for defenses when you got a lot of guys pre-snap motion and post-snap motion, right? Because they have to communicate. So you're making these guys, first of all, you line them in that bunch. Lazard's hipped off the tackle like he is going to go backside, so you're anticipating that. Then you see it. Now you're focused on something else, and what do? They slip the back over on the left side to get their guys out, right? I think it looks like they identified whether it was man or zone. That's a big thing in the screen game, is whether the offensive line can identify, is it man coverage or zone coverage? Because if it's man, that means the linebacker's got the running back, and we got to get on that guy now. If it's zone, you're probably going to the flat, right, for the first guy who's going to make the play. Go ahead and let it rip, yeah. So you see Runyon Jr., who's been playing lights out, he gets up on the second level and really makes that play go. It's fantastic.
This one's probably a touchdown. Oh, no, this was not. Okay.
Well, wait a second. We talked about this, right? Now, go ahead and rewind. So that's two guys we've talked about. That's Quinn, and I think that's Tunyon.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. You did say he cannot block. Yeah. And it is Tunyon. Yep. He gets pushed right back into the back.
Look, so the problem is, like, if you're a Packers fan, now you can't even bring him in the game, and otherwise I'm going to know it's a pass, like, or they'll like flare him out to the left and we're trying to run to the right. Like, he becomes a liability, right? So it's almost like you don't become completely one-dimensional, but you have to now game plan your own player, right? Which
These
is
are
really
tough.
tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, but listen, I love Quinn, man. Quinn's like one of those dudes. I got a story about Quinn. I'll screw it
Ooh.
up, but the gist of it is we had two guys that had played for the LA Rams, right? And they were kind of wrestling around, and I was like, we're in the weight room, and Quinn goes, oh yeah, it's like all state wrestler twice or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I could believe it, right? If you saw him, you'd be like, okay, I believe you. And he goes, yeah, but I don't think he started wrestling until his like sophomore year in high school. He's like, there was an announcement over the PA. He was walking down the hall. There's an announcement over the PA. He's like, anybody who wants to try out for the wrestling team, get on the bus at like 2 p.m. after school. He was like, I think I'll try wrestling. And he was 2-time state champ. Like, you got to be kidding me, man. You know how hard wrestling is too, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
All right. So I got some questions for you. If you had to make a list of like your top 5, I wouldn't just say just straight O-Linemen, but if you want to say it's it's a joint thing, it's a process, they have to gel together, like the best O-lines in the league right now.
Ooh. Top 5 guys, or just like who do I think the top 5 lines are?
I would take either. I would take both.
Okay. So I would. Wow, so the Browns are by far the best. I think that's easy. Browns are not. To me, it's not even close. I'm just trying to think. There's a lot of injuries, right? There's a lot of injuries along the line. I think to me, I like when the Titans guys are healthy. I just like the way they play, right? Tyler Lewan had a rough first game, and I know he's hurt now, but I just like the way they play. Always have. The Packers are going to have a really good. They've been playing well. I know their stats don't say it, but like they got 3 young guys playing. I think they've got a lot of talent. Bakhtiari is for me like Bakhtiari, Trent Williams, and Tunzel are the top 3 tackles to me in the league. Those guys are really good. I love watching. I don't think there's a lot of really good. I guess what I'm saying is like the Cleveland's like they're literally on their own. Like it's Cleveland, and then everybody else is like so far down the mountain. But when I look at like players that I just really like to watch, like I love watching obviously Quentin Nelson. I love watching Worse from Tampa. I think he's awesome. I love watching their center, the ginger, the black belt in Taekwondo. I forgot his name. He used to play for Baltimore. He's a bad dude. There's some really good individual players out there. But yeah, it's funny. Like I said, the game's kind of changed, and so like when I look at offensive linemen now, I'm always looking at like, okay, do they play with great hip hinge? Like, how's their technique of their hands inside? Like, is their footwork like methodical? Like, is it really consistent? Like, you just don't see it as much as you used to. And so you just see that there's a handful of teams that have really good offensive line coaching, and they're just way ahead of everybody else. And honestly, I would say the Green Bay Packers is one of those teams. I think they have a really good coach in Adam Stenavich, and you can see because like they can just cycle through all these players and just keep rolling, even though I know they have Aaron Rodgers and he's incredible, but they're doing a pretty good job as well, right? So Tampa's got a good line. The Cleveland Browns have a great line. Green Bay's got a pretty good line. I think St. Louis's line is pretty solid. And Arizona's line, people are saying their tackles aren't very good and blah, blah, blah. Like Arizona's line, like if you're running and throwing for that many yards, like you're doing something right.
Okay, I like that. I know you got to go soon, so let's just wrap this up with the last segment. This is the last segment of the show, the heart of the show, Ballers Bouquet. Too often in the media, people only want to focus on the negative and salacious things athletes do, and they never want to give them their credit where credit is due. Here, I like to make a change. So this week's Ballers Bouquet is going to our guest, Mike Wahle, who is a player advocate for the Hall of Fame Behavioral Health. It's a mental support group ran by the NFL where they basically provide comprehensive solutions for mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse issues to former players, veterans, and their families. So I want you to talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame of Behavioral Health, your role as a player advocate, and what it means to you in the league.
So I was approached with the idea of becoming an ambassador, and I think it makes so much sense. I can just tell you personally that I have so many friends, and my wife has like so many wives of friends that, because a lot of guys don't want to talk about this. It's not macho, right? But who really struggle when they leave. And I remember Scotty Graham, who's the running backs coach for University of Arizona now, but he used to be a player rep for the NFLPA. He used to come in with a stat every year. We see him every year, right? And like Scotty's the guy that, like, gives you your union check and like it tells you all the stuff. But he came with a stat every year and was like, I don't want to mess it up. It was like 80 to 90% of NFL players after they retire after 3 years are like dead, broke, or divorced. And like, however they came up with that stat, that's still a pretty damning stat, right? So knowing that there's all these people out there that are suffering now, we kind of see the effects of like injuries, traumatic brain injuries, etc. And people just don't want to admit that they need help or want to go seek out that help. It's like sports psychology is something I'm extremely interested in, but as an athlete back in the 90s and 2000s, it's something we would never touch. And so of those people from that generation and before, I think it's really, really difficult for them to even wrap their heads around that. And so for me, to be able to be a part of a group that is willing to reach out and provide that help, and just understanding that if I see one of my former teammates, if I see somebody, just because they're really accessible to everyone. If I see one of, a service member or anybody that might see me and say, I remember that guy, or, I like that guy, whatever it is, I'm on there, you can call me. It's a discussion, it's something like I'll be your first point of contact, because I think that's easier than sometimes making that hard phone call. Like, I need help. It's like, man, call somebody who just wants to talk to you and talk things through. And then, hey, if it's what you want to do, like, we can help you get to that next step, certainly. So I love what they're doing. I'm super proud to be a part of it. And they have a great platform they're using called VidSig. It's I think it's after like video signature, but it's a phenomenal platform. Go to vidsig.com and you can go on, you can just grab a chat, just set up a time. If anybody's out there and they're hearing this and they're going, man, that might be me, and I'd be more than happy to be honored to talk to you. So certainly give me the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Look, that was it for episode 58 of the Fly Route Podcast. I want to thank Mike Wahle for coming on, sharing his insights, and being a fantastic guest for us. Please let everybody know where they can find you, your information, etc.
Yeah, hit me up on process2perform.com. My Twitter handle is unrivaled ESS, or process2perform on Instagram. Check out our Process to Perform podcast. And one more, I got to get you. Mon Green and I, Packers all-time leading rusher, we do On My Block, the Packers podcast. We do it every week. Releases on Tuesday. If you're into like these kind of stories, we talk about old times. We talk about some locker room stuff. Talk a lot about kind of our analysis from the pros perspective, man. It's a fun podcast. Check out.
All right. Sounds great. Make sure y'all check that out on my block, Process to Perform, and follow him on Twitter, Unrivaled ESS.
Yep.
Fantastic. So I cannot wait to bring everybody episode 59 next week. Thank you to all of our listeners, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Audia, or you're just watching clips on social media. We appreciate every single one of you. And I'll see y'all next week.